So with this year being the centenary of the 1916 Easter Rising, we wanted to bring young people and artists together to creatively commemorate this time in Irish history, and Waves made this possible. So at the heart of Waves is an artist-led workshop series. The workshops introduced the students to new art materials and techniques, and also opened up fresh debates on art and politics in the classroom. We've commissioned a new piece of writing by writer Sue Rainsford and a graphic poster by designer Distinctive Repetition.
So with having such a significant event in Irish history as a starting point for the project, it made sense to work with artists that had a political, socially engaged, or maybe a certain complexity to their practice. So it was with this in mind that we approached the artists Clodagh Emoe, Lynch, Eoghan Ryan and Ruth Lyons to be part of the Waves project. The title of the project is Waves, and with Waves the reference is to a wave as a movement or a phenomenon. So thinking about the Easter Rising as part of a wave of nationalism in Ireland at that time. What I'm really interested in is how contemporary visual artists really attempt to engage with the issues of our time. So in that sense, I think that they're very tapped into the present moment on a societal level, as though they're tuning into certain frequencies.
I'm given a workshop on silicone mold making and resin casting, that the students would make individual kind of memorials, like little commemorative decorative objects that will immortalize some little object that they find really important in their lives. What are the essential elements in their life? What are the essential substances that make their way of life possible? So I'm asking them to kind of bring something that represents this and cast it in a clear resin cast, which will kind of immortalize it for hundreds of years. My name's Ruth, and I work as an artist. I mostly make sculpture. And my work is really about materials. So I've brought you in a group of materials here, and I want to see if you can identify these. Can anyone guess what's in that jar? The black jar.
Ink.
It's dark.
Ink.
It's not ink, no. It's one of the most commonly used materials in the whole world. It is the most commonly used. Oil, yeah. Oil is the biggest profit-grossing material in the world today. Most of the world economies operate on the trade of oil, and wars are fought over oil. The shape of the earth is really defined by that today, the political and social shape of the earth. Can you imagine what the second one might be? Coffee beans, yeah. But what do coffee and oil have in common? Energy, yeah? To what? To wake you up and to kind of move faster, you know? And same with oil. It's kind of to move faster. There's kind of an acceleration built into both of them. And what does that say about society when they're the biggest grossing materials, profit-grossing materials in the world today?
The world is moving faster.
Yeah, something about time, isn't it? And the want to move faster. You know what these are made out of now, do you? What? Someone said it? Salt. So they're made out of rock salt. So these are bowls that I carved out of rock salt. So that wall there is solid salt. And this mine in County Antrim has 64 kilometres of network of tunnels under the earth. And this seam of salt runs all the way from Ireland to eastern Poland, under the earth. So can you imagine this is under the sea and under all the countries of Northern Europe. This is a solid seam of salt. This salt is actually a 230 million year old sea. It's mind-blowing stuff. But we're going to make little kind of personal memorials to materials that are really important to you. I want you just to think about what are the most important materials that you use every day. And it might not be the most functional, it might just be something that you really like. What are the materials that you just cannot do without? Maybe it's the stuff your house is built out of or your car is built out of. And we'll cast it in resin. What we're going to do today is we're going to make a silicone mold, and then we're going to leave that to harden. And then next week, you're going to bring in whatever materials you have, and we'll put them in the silicone mold and fill the silicone mold with resin. And the resin is a clear casting resin, so it's completely clear. So you'll make these little like gems.
I put in one of them it was my mom and my dad's signatures, and then in the other was 2 quotes, one from my granny and one from my granddad. And so my granny's one said, if everyone was the same, the world would be a boring place.
Yeah, what I did is like I'm here only for a year, and once this year ends I will go back home. But this whole year I have been like missing home, and I know that the next year I will miss Ireland. So the thing is that I choose a key because this key, it's in all the doors of my home, of my house of Ireland. With a key you can open anything, but it's also like once you arrive home, you take out the key.
The workshop is about people power. And what we're aiming to do is to look at artistic strategies, to engage with specific issues and to explore those issues, but also to expose those issues. What I'm planning to do is to go and give a presentation to the group of students. And this presentation is showing different artistic strategies and collective power. I'm going to break the group into clusters, and they're going to, amongst themselves, decide what issues affect them. And then we'll have a kind of a democratic vote to see which issue we're going to work on.
Clodagh Emoe came in for our workshop, and she kind of touched topics that were really relevant in different times in history, like the apartheid and stuff like that. And we as a group wanted to come up with what we felt needed like a change and needed addressing in Ireland. We kind of touched on topics like free education not really being free, but one guy in the class had a really personal experience with the healthcare system and his uncle not really getting the best care.
Yeah, it was just fun to talk about other topics and come up with a creative situation as to how we can address the topics.
This is what we're all responding to. Go, Hannah.
So it's like, we could be like a raffle kind of thing. So it could be like, okay, the first prize is a set of candles, well done, and that can be the nanny, but she's like, I wanted the trolley for the day, because the big prize is the trolley of the day. And then the big prize, that can go to like the little girl who only has like a little cut in her arm. So it's like, healthcare is like
Uneven
and
kind of stupid.
Yeah, so it's like not really fair.
Lucy has the storyboard done, and I think that we all should have a look at this.
So it's going to start off with a raffle in the hospital saying, and welcome to the generic hospital.
Like, you know the way we were talking about you're stuck in a trolley on a corridor. So maybe it's a scene with hospital beds, and then they turn it around and say, well, you're not in the ward, you're out on the corridor.
Yeah, I think this would be really funny. If the granny won it, but then she died of a disease that she had in the hospital, and she goes, oh, well, she didn't get the thing on time, and then it just changed to someone else. It would just show that people aren't getting the beds properly.
Hello, my name is Sean Lynch, and I'm working here at Fingal Community College for the last 2 days, and we're really enjoying putting together a workshop here around ideas of how public art works in terms of the spaces we live in and the times we encounter nowadays. Many people are familiar with the monuments and the statuary of 1916, but there's many different types of artistic methodologies that have come along since then, and the idea of the workshop here is to celebrate them and to share them with the school here and all the many great students that have been in the class in the last couple of days. We're beginning to get to the stage now of finalising a series of what you could call very speculative proposals. And these are very much based in conversations that we've been having around the nature of the everyday and the objects that you can encounter in the everyday and what they might become if you consider that they would become a monument to the contemporary times that we live in.
So just a couple of things to say. I think the world would be a lot more interesting if all your projects would get made there, right? So that's a nice thing, you know, just to kind of look around the room going, oh yeah, what everyone else is doing sounds interesting, and there's possibilities the world would be a better place, or one more full of devilment, as I mentioned yesterday, if they got realised, all right? So it's just something that we kind of touched on around how sometimes objects have stories that you can't see straight away, that you might look at something and think about it one way, but the person who made it might make some suggestions about how you view it and understand it.
We have Earth here, and we have a colour around it to present that like the money is kind of moving the Earth.
Yeah.
And then while we have around like galaxy to show like that's the
context of it all.
Like we have the continents, like here's America, here's like Europe, and they're closer than they should be because like we're all kind of joined by money.
It's supposed to be an anti-bully sculpture. The 3 taller fingers would represent the bullies, and the thumb would represent the person getting bullied because it's lower down.
Like on my estate there's a big green and there's like a wall there, so if I had it on the wall just to represent that like neighbourhoods are really nosy.
I think that could really get made. That's a really nice sculpture. Yeah, so what, the first years are in the lockers?
Well, they're jumping out in the lockers.
They're jumping out in the lockers, super.
We're just trying to basically show like how the lockers get in the way and the first years get in the way as well.
I love how floppy everyone's hands are. The first years get stronger the longer they're in the school, do they? When they come here first they wave their hands around like rubber a bit, yeah? Super.
I just sort of thought, what do people not want to see in the park? And that would be a dead pigeon. More so a large dead pigeon in the middle of it. One of the ideas was to write who killed the pigeon on this sort of mirrored kind of dead pigeon, and because it would be in the middle of the park you'd have to walk up to it and then you'd see your own reflection, and it would sort of be like you did and us as a society because we just don't care enough.
I wanted to put this in the apartment I used to live in back in Latvia, and the area is very grey, so I want to put in colour in a much larger scale, and also I put in a message into like 1 balloon or 2 balloons here, but like in there it would be every balloon, and if people take them down or once they pop they would see a positive message. It was very interesting, and at first once I heard to find the strangest place in your life, it was really challenging because I thought every place sounded normal.
So yeah, Sean, he actually showed us like many ways that we actually thought it's quite ordinary, that we can change it into something new, something strange, just to like make people excited and happy about it.
When I approach anything like this, I'm thinking about what is it that's holding us together. So in this sense, it was us being in a classroom, me as an artist, them as transition year students in the school, and then the Easter Rising centenary. I thought I'd just try for flags because they're confusing as material. Addressing kind of the material culture surrounding flags, what they could mean, if they're important, and how you can inject them or add some kind of like subjective or individual importance, or update them or undermine them. So everyone was invited to kind of collaboratively make their own flags. So we start by looking at destroying flags in a kind of a demonstrative or rebellious context, what that act means, what you're doing. And then we destroyed the flags that we produced in the first workshop. From that, I want to talk about the presence of flags and symbolism within contemporary art. I wanted to talk about destroying the flag as an act of, you don't do it just for the sake of destroying a flag, right?
Maybe.
You do it to destroy a symbol, what it stands for.
Because I was reading over the weekend about if it's legal to destroy the flags of Ireland and other countries. The Department of the Taoiseach's Guide to the Flag of Ireland includes a list of practices to avoid. This states in part, the national flag should never be defaced by placing slogans, logos, lettering or pictures of any kind on it. But what do you think the worry is?
That people don't want to change the flag.
People won't take it seriously.
Yeah, but nobody takes it seriously.
Yeah, but other countries won't take it seriously.
But is it the flag or what it stands for that people won't take seriously?
Just what it stands for.
What do you guys think of these flags now?
Is it an act of defiling them if they're sitting on them?
I feel like we're taking ownership of
It's also solidarity. I mean, if you're now sitting on yes to equality, Are you defiling it or are you siding with it? If you're sitting on #gender, gay is okay, are you, Billy, siding with it, or are you against it, or are you impartial, or do you care?
Well, personally, like, I think gay is okay, so I'd be siding with it.
Because I think one of the big problems that we were talking about last time, which Big Finn said rightly, was that there's something very throwaway and hard to take seriously about these. Okay, well, I'm going to take a decision, and we're going to cut them up. Do you think you did it so easily because you don't consider these flags in any way, shape or form?
Yep.
They were flags, but we didn't consider them like as important as like official flags.
If these flags weren't just what you had for breakfast and what you read in the news, but if they were, say, the American flag, the Irish flag, the German flag, and the British flag, would anyone feel that they were doing it out of an act of protest, or would you just be doing it because I said to do it in an art class?
I'd say no.
For all the say it is Irish, British, and American flags.
I wouldn't put those flags on. They're just flags.
It's like, it means something. I know what a flag means to someone because I know what a flag means to me, so I wouldn't do it to a nation.
Ireland has like this big government that
We don't have a government
likes,
right
yeah,
now.
that likes to think that it's very strong and stable and that they're doing good, but they're not, and that like all these flags that had a lot of very angry messages on them or very political messages on them are kind of what people think, but they're never going to say it, or they never have the opportunity to say it.
Kind of like saying that the flag is an image for the country, but then all the flags that we put up is like the actual people, like what we want.
Like if the voting age was lower, we probably care about it because it's something that we can influence.
Because you kind of, it's something that you can make a difference with. Right now, we have absolutely no say in the government of the country, so.
Do you think it would change your opinion, Billy? Would it change how you like?
If I was allowed to vote, I would vote.
If we think about like a more specific symbol in our own space, and then maybe we can section it off onto like one white flag. Infinity, love. This is trans identity, is it? This is women, autism. Be creative.
The idea of using a flag to display parts of ourselves I found very moving and important because I know how flags mean to myself, and to all of us to come together and make one that represents this room for these couple of hours really resonated with me.
What I liked about the project was that we could be ourselves and we could talk about things we wouldn't normally talk about at school, like gender, sexuality and other important bits of news.
I've never used a paintbrush before, I've never done anything like this before, and it was really great as a new experience. It was a great way of expressing myself.
I got a great insight into the students, their own political issues, things that are real and live to them, which often in a classroom situation you don't get that opportunity. They were challenged by the type of art that they saw, the type of art that they had to produce, whether it was, you know, working with video or acting, and then to actually make and produce a flag that represented themselves.
They learnt about public art, you know, they learnt about sculpture. They met two artists and they got to do something that they would normally do for the Leaving Cert. The resin was amazing. I think they really thought about their objects that they brought in and they really engaged, and I think the public art was a great experience. Again, the ideas that they came up with blew me away.